Hi everybody, I'm Judy the YouTube Lawyer. Today we are going to celebrate Father's Day by remembering a very dedicated father, law professor Dan Markel, who unfortunately was murdered by hitmen back in July of 2014. So today, while his two sons are spending Father's Day most likely with their maternal grandfather, as well as their mother, Wendi Adelson, and their grandmother, Donna Adelson. Unfortunately, Dan Markel is not here to enjoy the company of his sons, and his own parents, as well as his sister, are not able to spend this day with the children. So let's remember Dan Markel. One of the nice videos that I did find also on YouTube was of his parents on the 7th anniversary of his murder, where they gave an uplifting message where they thanked people for caring about the case and hope to be able to see their grandchildren someday. So let's take a look here. It looks like there are a lot of people who have already commented on the live stream in the chat box. So thank you guys for being here and being supportive also of this channel. So I hope you guys can see that out there. This was put up there by the Justice for Dan YouTube channel. And these are friends of Dan Markel's. I think most of them are law professors who had known him. And they also have a very active Facebook group called Justice for Dan, which I will also show. Yeah, unfortunately, this Justice for Dan Markel YouTube channel only has 135 subscribers. I'm not sure how active it is as a YouTube channel, but it was very nice that they put together this video with the help of his parents years ago. So in this picture, you can see Dan with his two children, and people who have been following this case, you know that Wendi Adelson, his ex-wife, changed the last name of the two children to Adelson. And when she was testifying at the Catherine McBenua trial, Wendi claimed that she had to change the kid's last name to Adelson because she was worried about the media publicity and how that would affect their children if they had the last name Markel. So that just kind of sounds pretty silly. There are just multiple things that Wendi has said in her interrogation, as well as when she was testifying at the trials of Catherine McBenua, as well as Sigfredo Garcia, where it turned out that she was exaggerating or lying or twisting facts to make herself look better. So, you know, I mean, I'll just come right out there and say that I don't think Wendi looks very innocent, and there's just more and more information out there that is coming out that makes it look bad for her. So whether that's enough evidence to convict her of anything, that's another question. So let me take a look at there are so many comments here. I'm not sure if I can, hopefully I'll be able to answer everybody's questions, but of course I am by no means an expert in the case. There are definitely people out there who have been covering this case extensively, such as James Wachowski, also known as Mentor Lawyer. We did a joint live stream just last weekend, which was a lot of fun. And he's been covering this case for years with a lot of videos and footage from interrogations. Just really lives up to his channel name, which is Deep Dive True Crime. Hopefully Catherine McBenua dealt with Wendi to some extent. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, it looks like her sentencing is going to be on July 29th, which is the same day that Charlie Adelson is going to be back in court. So that'll be a big day in news regarding this case. Okay, thank you, Sophia. Thanks for your nice, kind words. Keeping my fingers crossed that Professor Markel and his family will eventually receive true justice. Yes. I would love to talk. I have been following this case from the start. Oh, awesome. Okay, yeah, if you're interested in being on the live stream, if you actually knew Dan Markel or anyone close to this case, if you want to be on the show, then feel free to email me. My email is nclawyer@mail.com. And it looks like someone that might have been Sigfredo Garcia's sister saw one of my live streams about the case a couple of weeks ago. And at first the person seemed mad and said, "Who are you? How dare you write about my niece and nephew?" And then the same person or the same account then later followed up and said, "I'm his sister and we want to talk about the case, let me know," or something to that effect. But then the person never contacted me again. So I don't know who's out there watching my videos or whatever, but I'm just a concerned citizen, someone who is a practicing attorney who knows some people who knew Dan. So I never knew him personally, but it is a very intriguing case and very sad situation, especially when Dan Markel was just trying to be a good father. He would definitely not want to let Wendi take away the two sons, and then he would only be able to visit them, say, on the holidays or during the summer or whatever. He had joint custody with Wendi, and he did not want her to move away down to South Florida so that it would be convenient for her and her parents to spend time with his children. So, okay, thank you. Yeah, I would really love to hear from people who have more information about the case. But of course, if you have anything that is like vital to the case, then definitely contact the prosecutors, Georgia Kappelman's office, contact law enforcement if you have anything that is of value, because I'm just somebody out here on YouTube that is covering the case a little bit. So it seems like a lot of people are more interested in discussing this case than my usual videos about the legal profession or whether people should go to law school. So let's take a look at this video. I'm not sure if you guys can hear it, but it's very short.
Calculated violence. Danny was a beautiful spirit, a passionate thinker, a devoted brother and son, and a dedicated, joyful father.
He brought people together and celebrated the passages of life with all of his heart. Our family mourns his loss today. As always, with profound gratitude for the community of law enforcement, prosecutors, friends, and strangers who continue to work and seek justice for Dan's memory.
7 years is a long, long time, but waiting is made tolerable by the belief that justice will come and that we will have a chance to see and know Dan's two sons again. We pray that in the long course of our grief and sorrow for Dan, this 7th year brings renewed energy and progress,
both in honoring his life and in finding accountability for all those who are responsible for taking it.
All of our communities have suffered a horrific year of loss and isolation. Throughout, we thank you all who remain engaged in ours and Dan's story. Our hearts are together as we move forward in the pursuit of peace and justice.
Okay, so if you're on Facebook, be sure to check out the Facebook group, Justice for Dan. And it does look like the people in charge of that Facebook group have been speaking with the media, which is really great. A couple of weeks ago, mentor lawyer James Wachewski and I were invited to be on a podcast / YouTube channel. It's called Surviving the Survivors. So we were interviewed along with a New York City criminal defense lawyer to talk about this case. And they also had another previous interview with one of the people who's behind the Justice for Dan Facebook page, who is Jason Solomon. He's a law professor, or maybe a former law professor from Georgia, who was good friends with Dan Markel. So that was really good to hear from Mr. Solomon. And next week on their podcast, as well as their YouTube channel, again, it's called Surviving the Survivor, they're going to be interviewing Georgia Kappelman. So that interview actually already took place a couple of days ago, but obviously it takes some time for them to edit it or put it up and stuff. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what Georgia Kappelman is going to say, because one of the people in charge, Joel Waldman, he did ask a lot of his followers if they had any questions specifically for Georgia Cappleman, and he would ask them of her. So be sure to tune in. I'm not sure exactly what day it's going to come out, but maybe on Wednesday. Yeah. So this here, right here. Yeah, this is the Facebook page, Justice for Dan, that I was mentioning. And I know a lot of people are down on Facebook. A lot of my friends have actually quit Facebook in the last 5 years, but to me, it's still useful for some things. And so I was really happy to find out about this Facebook group, which probably has how many people? 6,290 people follow it. The latest news is that they are urging Governor Ron DeSantis to sign off on HB 1119, which is the Markel Act. So we'll take a look at that. That has to do with grandparents having the right to have custody or at least have visitation of their grandparents in a situation where their child might have been murdered. But even then, the passage of this bill doesn't necessarily mean that the Markel grandparents are going to be able to get custody or visitation with their grandchildren. There's a lot of ifs, specific criteria under this bill before the grandparents could get visitation rights. And the sad thing is that, maybe by the time this whole saga is over, the kids could be already adults. So at which point then, the law doesn't have the ability to force grandchildren to see their grandparents, but maybe they will be able to reconnect with their grandchildren. So let's see here. Okay, so this is another really good website, Florida Politics, that has been covering the Markel case extensively. So this article says advocates urge governor to take stand for Florida dads with Markel Act. I can think of no better Father's Day gift than creating hope for reunification between family members. So this, known as the Markel Act, has a particular focus on the protection of parental rights and parental life. This is an article written by Peter Scorch on June 17. So this bill says if a child's parent dies and their living parent is found responsible for that death by a criminal or civil court, their grandparents have the right to petition for visitation. At that point, courts would consider that request, as they do for all others, with a strong orientation toward parental rights and what's in the best interest of the child. The bill was inspired by the 2014 murder of FSU law professor Dan Markel, who authorities say was murdered by hitmen hired by his ex-wife's family to secure her ability to move to Miami with her and Markel's 2 sons. To date, the 3 hired accomplices have been brought to justice, while the ex-wife, Wendi Adelson, her brother, Charlie Adelson, and her mother, Donna Adelson, have been named by prosecutors as co-conspirators. Okay, so this is a good article here. So it's Karen Cyphers on behalf of the grassroots group Justice for Dan, who says, I can think of no better Father's Day gift than creating hope for reunification between family members who, as victims of crime themselves, deserve each other's comfort. Okay, so that's good. We'll see if it passes. So, or actually, I heard that it did already pass, so it just needs the governor to sign off on it. So I'm not in Florida, though, so anyone feel free to give more information if I am missing something. Let's see. Okay, yeah, thank you guys for being here. I see all the comments in the chat box. Hi, everyone. Happy Father's Day to all the dads. Yeah, hopefully it's a happy day for most people. Both Katie and June did themselves no favors by getting involved. Well, isn't that the truth? I mean, after the fact, I guess he just seemed so attractive and he had the money to really woo them and to manipulate them. Yeah, did Willie Meggs have a hand in delaying arrests of the Adelsons due to a relationship with the family or somewhere along those lines? Any thoughts? Yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, I know some people were complaining about that, but on the other hand, I wonder if maybe they just wanted to wait to get more information to see if Kathleen Magbanua would turn against Charlie. So who knows? And then, of course, they got the enhanced audio from that Dolce Vita restaurant conversation. So that really kind of seals the deal in terms of proving Charlie Adelson's involvement in the murder. So let's see, what type of defense do you surmise Charlie's attorneys will argue? How successful? Well, that's why I don't think he's going to be successful, but everybody's always surprised by some verdicts. Like just a few days ago, there was that case also in Florida involving Danielle Redlick, where she was found not guilty of second-degree murder of her husband. And I really thought that she was going to be found guilty. So that was a surprise to me, but she was found guilty of tampering with evidence, though. But she's already been in prison for 3 years. I mean, so there's always surprises. You never know. But this was the same kind of question that all three of us guests answered on that Surviving the Survivor podcast / YouTube channel interview a couple of weeks ago. They were asking, well, what do you think Charlie's defense will be? So the first person to speak up was John Arlia, the criminal defense attorney from New York City. And he said, well, maybe Charlie's attorneys would argue that he didn't mean for Dan Markel to be murdered. He just wanted the guys to go rough up Dan Markel or beat him up or threaten him, but he didn't expect them to actually murder him. So I'm not sure. And then I was just guessing off the top of my head. I mean, we weren't given these questions before the interview. So I was like, well, maybe he might claim that it was all just a joke, because even Wendi says that he would often make tasteless jokes. So maybe he's just joking. And then these clowns, these thugs just ran with it. And, we were thinking that maybe Charlie would claim that they were bribing him and threatening him because they wanted money out of him. So, of course, I mean, based on the evidence, I think those would be kind of shoddy excuses to come up with. But, who knows what they will say, or maybe Charlie will try to do some sort of plea bargaining. I have no idea what could happen in this case. But let me just show you guys, since I think this is a really good podcast, really great podcast and YouTube channel, and they deserve more subscribers also. So this is the YouTube channel Surviving the Survivor. Looks like they have 620 subscribers now. Yeah, so that's pretty awesome. It is Joel Waldman and his mother Carm, or I think her full name might be Carmela. I'm still not sure if her last name is also Waldman, but she has a PhD. She's a psychologist whose father was actually killed in the Holocaust. So I guess that's where the name of their channel and podcast comes from. So this first video that you see on the screen is the one where mentor lawyer, aka James, and I were on the interview a couple of weeks ago, along with the attorney from New York City who used to be a prosecutor for the Manhattan DA's office. And then they also have a video here where they interviewed Jason Solomon, who was actually friends with Dan Markel. So I hope you guys will take a look at this channel and subscribe, help them get a lot more subscribers too. And like I said, they're going to be having an interview up probably on Wednesday with Georgia Kappelman, one of the prosecutors in the Catherine Magbanua case. So let's support them. Also, let's see. Okay. Diane. Yeah, Danielle read Kim Morgan, perhaps Charlie Adelson will walk on. Oh, I don't know. I mean, there was a lot. I mean, it's a totally different type of case, because in Diane's situation, there was a history of bumpy marriage and domestic violence, and the husband that she stabbed was actually previously her stepfather. So they hooked up after her mother died when Danielle was in her 20s. And then they had at least one or maybe two kids. I can't be sure, but Danielle Redlick was claiming it was self-defense. So obviously in this kind of situation, Charlie is not going to be able to claim self-defense. So I don't think Wendi or Donna will ever be charged. I think Wendi didn't ever think Charlie would ever do what he commented on? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel like there probably is enough evidence to show that Donna was involved, you know, especially her like weird behavior after Dan Markel died, and, you know, her weird behavior after the bump, you know, when the law enforcement went undercover and went up to her on the street, mentioning, you know, kind of hinting at the crime and asking for $5,000. So let me see. I should have brought this up on the screen earlier, but yeah, unfortunately now I can't figure out how to get to it really quickly. But I was just Googling around yesterday about, you know, is Wendi Adelson guilty? Okay, so I was like scrolling and found, you know, a lot of news articles, stuff that I had already seen before. But the really cool thing is that I also saw the, it was like an unserved probable cause document about Charlie Adelson's involvement in the murder. So sorry about that. I did not bring it up already, but there were some new things that I found out in that document, and I'm not even sure like who put it up there. Oh, here it is. Awesome. Okay, thank you, Google. And thank you to whoever Carl Edders is who uploaded it to ScribD. So you guys can probably, hopefully I can share this. Yeah, but it definitely makes it look even more damning for Wendi and Donna, as well as Charlie, obviously. But if you just Google ScribD, Wendi Adelson, I think that's what I Googled, then you can find this unserved probable cause for Charlie Adelson. So this had a lot of really interesting information. One thing that I found surprising that I didn't know about was that I guess there was already a memorial service on July 20th, which was a Sunday back in 2014. So that's kind of interesting that Dan Markel was shot in the late morning of a Friday, July 18th. And then from what I've read, he either died in the hospital 11 to 15 hours later. And then just that following Sunday, they already had a memorial service for him. So in this unserved probable cause document, it said that Wendi, Donna, and Harvey had been contacted. Well, of course, Wendi already spoke with law enforcement the day of the shooting, but she said that she was going to come back and talk to them some more after the memorial service. And her parents were supposed to also speak with law enforcement after the memorial service. But instead, what happened was that Wendi claimed she had already left. And then soon afterwards, from the same phone number, her attorney, somebody who was her attorney, called back law enforcement and said, Wendy's not going to talk to you again. And then her parents never showed up or never followed up either, despite first saying that they were going to go and speak with law enforcement. So instead, they quickly packed up the car and hightailed it back down to the Miami area right after the memorial service. And Charlie Adelson was not present at that memorial service. So that I find already very fishy, because if they had nothing to do with Dan's murder, then why would they behave in that way? Even if they didn't like this guy, you know, Wendy's divorce had already been final the previous year back in 2013. I mean, if they cared enough to go to the memorial service, then why wouldn't they want to go and talk with law enforcement about anything if they were truly innocent? Another thing is that this probable cause document, and again, I have no idea where it came from. It just shows up on ScribD. If you do a Google search for it, you can read it for yourself. But another interesting thing that I found was that there were multiple calls between, I'm pretty sure it's Sigfredo Garcia and Harvey Adelson's cell phone. So if you guys watched that live stream show I did last week with Mentor Lawyer, I had asked him about this because I wasn't really clear on it. Like, was Harvey Adelson involved? You know, weren't there phone calls between the hitman and Adelson right around the time that they were going to go up and shoot Dan Markel? And as far as I recall, mentor lawyer thought that it wasn't really that significant because he had thought that maybe the phone call was really to the Adelson Institute and that rolled over to Harvey Adelson's cell phone or whatever. But in this probable cause document, it looks a lot more damning for Harvey Adelson because it's not just one time that Sigfredo Garcia's cell phone is trying to reach Harvey Adelson, but it's more than once, maybe several times after the shooting that there is record of these phone calls. And I'm not sure if any of the phone calls were actually more than just say, you know, trying to call the number, getting voicemail and not actually talking to him. But I mean, it would be kind of strange if Donna had her own cell phone, then why would she be using Harvey's cell phone to communicate with the hitmen? But who knows? I mean, it does look bad. And they also mentioned some other conversation that Charlie might have had with his father, or there's some other mention of Harvey Adelson in there. So even after reading this, I have doubts. I mean, at first I thought that the father probably didn't have anything to do with it. Maybe he found out later after the fact, but after reading this, I'm starting to think that the father of Wendi also was involved in this. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, yeah, you think all the Adelson were involved? Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to think that also. I mean, obviously, except for the oldest brother who moved far away and he doesn't have any ties anymore with the family, and he's a doctor in New York. Yeah, you think there's enough? Yeah, I mean, I kind of think so too, and I'm just hoping that there's probably lots more great evidence out there that the public has not been told about. So this is just going off of what we as regular citizens are able to read about or access. Yeah. Oh, Denise Williams got 30 years. Okay. Yeah, hi, Twan. Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks for your support of the channel. Without the help of Wendi, Dan wouldn't have. Yeah, exactly. And that's why, you know, originally when I first heard about the case and I saw a little bit of the interrogation or the police interview video, I thought, well, maybe, you know, maybe she didn't know anything about it. I mean, she seems to be grieving him and she's really upset and, you know, somebody else must have plotted this all along. But you guys got to see that deep dive true crime video where Mentor Lawyer gives his 20 plus reasons why Wendi Adelson is guilty. And I agree with him that the very first reason is that she's the main beneficiary of Dan Markel being murdered. She was the one that really, really wanted to move away. She had filed a motion to try to take the kids and move them away to be down in South Florida. She hated being in Tallahassee. And so her motion got denied. But voila, you know, now that her ex-husband got murdered, she was able to pack up her bags, and within actually maybe 3 days, 2 or 3 days after he was shot, she had already packed her bags and, you know, took the kids, piled in the car, you know, left with her 2 parents and did not cooperate anymore with law enforcement. So that's very suspicious, because if she really had nothing to do with the murder, why would she behave in that way? Why would she already have all her stuff like ready to go pretty much? And, you know, I don't know what kind of job she had back in the summer of 2014, but that's also kind of strange that she was able to just like up and leave so quickly. So it sounds more likely that she had a hand in it. Also, who else would know about Dan's schedule? You know, who would know what time the kids would already most likely be dropped off in daycare? Who would know the name of the gym, where the gym is, what Dan's habits were, because he did have plans to go to New York the next day to go visit his girlfriend. And I think Wendi knew about that. In fact, she did say when she was interviewed by the police that, you know, she had just recently met the new girlfriend who was a law professor up in New York. So, yeah, so I agree with you, Sophia. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Who's Denise Williams? Okay, but just reading the comments, I mean, it's also interesting reading the comments in a lot of the videos on YouTube about this case. So people kept saying that Wendi reminds them of someone named Dalia DiPolito, and I had no idea who Dalia DiPolito is. So I looked her up, read a little bit about the case, and also saw, you know, some videos. So it's kind of interesting to see, because once I saw the Dalia DiPolito police interrogation video, then I thought, yeah, she does. I mean, Wendi does seem to be acting like this lady who was also acting. So Dalia DiPolito, around 2009, she was married, but she hated her husband and wanted to kill off her husband, which is kind of weird. I mean, of course, you know, all these people are kind of weird because they plotted to kill people, but, you know, they didn't even have any kids or anything. So why couldn't she just divorce her husband? It's just so weird. So Dalia was cheating on her husband. So she started telling her then boyfriend that she wanted to kill off her husband, Mike. So the boyfriend did the right thing and went to law enforcement and told them that this girl, this young lady I'm dating, she's trying to hire a hitman, or she's trying to kill off her husband. So they set up this big sting where even a TV show got involved, and they set it all up elaborately. They got in touch with her husband to warn him about it, so he was in on it too. And then the police brought her in and told her that her husband had been killed. So it's so uncanny how similar the way Dalia acts when she's like acting like she's so surprised and overwhelmed to find out that her husband has supposedly been killed. So let's take a look here.
First of all, let me just tell you, I'm sorry for your loss. All right, honey. No, you don't want to say no. Believe me, you don't. Could you listen, please? I'm required to warn you before you make any statement that you have the following constitutional rights. And as I say, this is protocol. If you don't understand, tell me you don't understand, I'll explain them to you, okay? You have the right to remain silent and not answer any questions. You understand that? You have to answer me. Just say yes. Any statement you make must be freely and voluntarily given. Do you understand that? If you have the right to the presence and representation of the lawyer of your choice where you make any statement during any question. You understand that? If you cannot afford a lawyer, you are entitled to the presence and representation of a court-appointed lawyer where you make any statement during any questions. Do you understand that? If any time during the...
Okay. Well, anyway, I mean, obviously this live stream is not about the Dalia DiPolito case, but yeah, I mean, she's very different from Wendi. You know, Wendi was a clinical law professor at FSU, but I think I brought her up because people in the comments section of other videos were saying that the way Wendi was acting during her police interrogation seemed just as phony as Dalia DiPolito's expressions when she's pretending that she's totally shocked, like what happened to my husband and stuff. So, yeah, so later on, her husband, who actually was not murdered, obviously, then walked into the room to surprise her. But anyway, yeah, so I do find some similarities between the way Dalia behaved with the way Wendi behaved in her interrogation, because after hearing more about the case, you know, you find out that Wendi was kind of like lying about some stuff, trying to make it seem like her ex-boyfriend, Jeffrey Lacoste, might have been a suspect and trying to throw him under the bus. So it makes you feel like, okay, this lady is just like totally devious and she's trying to be an actress, you know, just really an unsavory type of person who would be happy to throw anybody under the bus as long as she can get her way. So let me remove this since it's going to make me watch an ad if I wanted to show that video of Wendi's interrogation. Okay, so let's take a look at the comments out here. So could the state offer Charlie a deal for a lesser sentence if he turns on his mother and sister? Yeah, I think they can. Yeah. I mean, it's so early on in his criminal case. He just got arrested a couple of months ago. So sure, who knows what's going on behind the scenes. But I still doubt, I mean, I really doubt that he would turn on his mother. I'm not sure. Though, although you guys out there have probably already seen the other YouTube channel that has a a lot of really interesting things about this case called Fancy Fiction. So one of the recent videos that Fancy Fiction put on was an audio recording of a phone call between Charlie Adelson and his mother, Donna Adelson. I think it was back in 2016, where it seems like there is some strife there between Charlie and Wendi, because Charlie is kind of ragging on Wendi and saying she's like some trust fund baby and she's always had things spoon fed to her, and how come he's the one that's worked hard to make his money. He's had to work hard and Wendi doesn't have to work hard, and she gets all this money dumped on her, because since Dan passed away, Dan Markel had life insurance for each of the children. I think it was $1 million policy. And then Wendi was the beneficiary of his 401k and his IRA. And I think she also got the house or the house proceeds. So there were, a lot of things that came Wendi's way. And I think Charlie probably feels like, why am I the one to go down for this? And I did all this work. I orchestrated this. And, Wendi's got everything she wants now. So in that phone call, you can sense that type of jealousy and the sibling rivalry between Charlie Adelson and Wendi. So I think if Charlie is afraid that he could be put to death or stuck in prison for life, why would he agree to take the fall for the whole family, especially for his trust fund baby, spoiled brat little sister who's now rich and never really had to work hard for her money? So it should be interesting what happens. Let's see. What was the significance of the owl? Oh, yeah. So, I was kind of like scratching my head. Like, what is this? Because I never heard of an owl as being a representation of death or an omen of death. So, of course, I went to good old Google, and apparently in some cultures, they said like African or Native American or some Middle Eastern cultures view an owl as being a bad omen, like a sign of impending death. So I had no idea about that. I don't know if to Wendi that was of significance that she wore a shirt with an owl that day that Dan Markel was shot. And so Mentor Lawyer was also mentioning during the interview with Surviving the Survivor that he also heard that an owl was actually a mascot of Brandeis University, which is where Wendi went for college. So I looked that up also, and the owl that is the mascot for Brandeis University does not look anything like the owl that's on Wendi's t-shirt. So the shirt she was wearing was clearly not some sort of Brandeis, paraphernalia or official school mascot type of shirt. So who knows? Maybe to Wendi that did mean something. But to me, I had no idea that an owl even meant anything or was significant. Yeah, but you guys can feel free to comment. Let me know. Like, did you think that it was like immediately a bad thing if you saw somebody wearing a T-shirt with an owl on it? Yeah, but the Brandeis mascot looks like a much more cartoonish, happy, cheerful owl, not the kind of thing that she had on her T-shirt. Yeah, lots of circumstantial evidence says yes, I think so, especially the fact that she drove all the way out of her way to go down near Dan Markel's neighborhood after the shooting happened and went to go buy alcohol, the Bullet Bourbon, when there were plenty of other places she could have bought alcohol that were a lot closer to where she lived or where she was going to meet her friends for lunch. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, she called Dan that day of the murder. That's right. Could Wendi be prosecuted for perjury for lying on the stand? She lied the entire time. Yeah, she definitely made herself to look like a real deceitful person both times that she testified. Even she wouldn't even give a straight answer about the changing the kids' names and taking away the middle name of one of the children that was in honor of Dan Markel's maternal grandmother. So, and then lying and claiming that she allowed the Markel family to see their grandchildren. That turned out to be a lie also because she had withdrawn the invitation to have them at the child's bar mitzvah. So, Yeah, but from what I've heard from plenty of criminal attorneys, like the DA's offices have too much to deal with and they don't normally go after people for perjury. I think probably they would rather focus on going after her and her brother and their mother for murder or conspiracy to murder as opposed to, oh, you lied on the stand. Because ultimately it's still up to the judge or up to the jury to decide, who's more credible. Let's see. Yeah, thanks you guys for being here, especially on a Father's Day. And I'm in the office, so I have more work to do today for stuff that's going on in court this week. So I probably have to get going soon. Yeah, mama drama, all that crying. Always insist on your right to remain. Yeah, so that was another thing that seemed suspicious about Wendy's interview with the police, is that she just kept talking and talking and talking and giving all sorts of like miscellaneous weird details, and it seemed like she was overcompensating, like she really wanted to convince the law enforcement that she was innocent and she had nothing to do with it by overcompensating, by giving all these weird details and going off on tangents, mentioning buying a bourbon and the guy mentioning that she had pretty eyes or something like that. I mean, there were a lot of like weird tangents that she went off on. And it is weird to me, in addition to her over the top, bawling reaction. I mean, that's weird. If this is your ex-husband that you really can't stand and you feel like he was excessively mean and condescending to you all the time, and he was filing all sorts of junk against you in court to keep you in the court system and keeping you from being able to move away with your children, then why would she be like bursting into tears and being so overwrought, as soon as she found out that he had been shot? So it is kind of weird that, number one, her reaction when she really hates this guy and her family hates this guy, because I'm thinking, what if somebody treated you very poorly, and like think of your ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend, former spouse that you can't stand, and they're always creating misery for you and filing a bunch of junk in court or whatever. Would you really be that overwrought and start crying, boo-hooing left and right if you found out that they had been shot? I certainly wouldn't. Also, the not even asking more questions about, what about my children? Did this happen when my kids were around? Are they okay? I don't know. Maybe she had already been told before the camera turned on that her kids were okay and in daycare. I'm not sure. But, I kind of feel like someone that was truly not involved would probably, number one, not be that brokenhearted and loud and bellowing and hyperventilating and stuff, finding out that someone that you can't stand just got shot. And also, wouldn't you be more concerned about getting out of there so that you can be with your kids? I'd probably want to say, if I'm not under arrest and I don't have to be here, then I really need to get out of here so I can go pick up my kids, or I want to be with my children, and I'd be glad I'll come back later and talk more with you. I mean, it just seems so bizarre that she was there for at least 5 hours, maybe closer to 6 hours or so, answering all these questions and going off on tangents and chumming it up with those women. I think one was a victim's advocate and the other person might have been one of her friends that showed up later. It was kind of bizarre. Yeah. Thank you, Sophia. Thanks for your support. Yeah, they're both Meryl Streep. Well, not really Meryl Streep, but who would be a bad actor? I don't know. Yeah, he's going to be better represented. Yeah, Charlie, I'm sure, only the best attorneys for Charlie. Charlie has not been arraigned. He has a court date on July 29th. Yeah, wish I could be there. Yeah, fancy fiction video. Yeah, I think those are great. I need to watch more of them. In such cases, murder as a solution to a conflict. Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy, especially in that Dahlia DiPolito case. She didn't even have kids with that guy, with her husband. So why couldn't she just divorce him? I mean, she was already cheating on him. Yeah, very strange. Yeah. Okay. Owl signifies death. Okay. Yeah. So for some people, they would have picked up on that. But to me, yeah, I didn't even notice any significance about her wearing the owl shirt. I'm not certain, but I believe estate for Dan reverts to his family, Markel. Yeah, it depends. I don't know if Dan had a will or not, but there are certain things that don't even go through probate. So, for example, it looks like Wendi was the beneficiary designated for his 401k and his retirement accounts, so she got the money. That's what was hinted at when the prosecution was asking her questions at the latest trial. So, okay. Yeah, there are just so many comments here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to address. And yeah. Okay, so this is another thing. So I talked to one of my relatives who really likes drinking fancy alcohol. Okay, so I'm not a specialist in alcoholic drinks, but apparently this bullet bourbon is like a normal type of bourbon that is sold all over the place and is as common as, say, Pepsi and Coca-Cola. So it's not anything really out of the ordinary if her friend told her to buy some bourbon and she bought some bullet bourbon because it's readily available. It is reasonably priced compared to other bourbons. So, I mean, coupled, if you add it in with all these other things at that point to her involvement in the murder, sure, that can be one more thing. But to my relative, who is a alcohol connoisseur, like he didn't think that anything was really out of the ordinary that she bought bullet bourbon. And by the way, the same person also said that there's some bourbon called Pappy Van Winkle's that is supposed to be like the best and very expensive and very hard to find. And people will spend tons of money to get Pappy Van Winkle bourbon. But but Wendi bought this bullet bourbon, which apparently could be had for, say, like $26 or so. Very interesting that she went out of her way to buy that at a liquor store that was close to Dan's neighborhood that day. She has immunity. Yeah, but that was only stuff that she said on the stand during the Katie Magbanua trial. That couldn't be used against her. Yeah, but other things that the investigators could have found outside of her testimony can be used against her. Yeah, she covered her tracks minute by minute. The TV repairman talked to 2 people, did some writing. Went out to last minute lunch with friends, got some gas. Yeah, exactly. It seemed like she was, again, overcompensating because she wanted to be sure. She had lots of alibis that day. And also I heard that it was her mother that set up the TV repairman appointment. So that is so weird. Like the mom doesn't even live anywhere close to her. And Wendi is a grown adult with a job and a family with 2 kids, but yet it seemed like her parents treated her like a big baby. I also remember in her police interview, she happened to mention that her parents didn't trust her to drive to the Miami area from Tallahassee. So they would often like go up there and then drive with her and the kids. I mean, it just seemed really weird. And Jeffrey Lacoste did say in his police interview, he said, the family is really weird. Like something's weird about the family. Everybody is so weird. And that's what I agree. The more I read about this whole saga and the more I watch, it's like, yeah, what is up with that family? Why did her mother have to make an appointment for her TV to be repaired when a mother lives near Miami? And, Wendy's already in her, mid to late 30s when this happens. This is really weird. Let's see, there are bigger fish. Yeah, that's right. In regards to, going after people for perjury. Let's see. Yeah, she looked unsettled when testifying. Yeah. Bullet bourbon bought the day of the murder. Buy Jack Daniels bourbon. Okay, yeah, thanks. Yeah, does Jack Daniels have good bourbon? I have never had bourbon before, but I just have no tolerance for alcohol. Yeah, okay, yeah. So somebody, was it Charlie, who said that his mother was having nonstop diarrhea after the bump or after Sigfredo got arrested? Yeah. So, so hopefully they are suffering. Oh, I did want to mention, I looked into this thing about extradition because some of the commenters on other YouTube videos about the case also asked, well, how come the family didn't run off to another country? So, I think the family has been so arrogant and so sure that nothing is ever going to happen to them that why would they want to move to another country? Why would they need to move to another country? That would be indicative of guilt, right? So, I mean, so there's many reasons. I mean, I did mention in my previous live stream about the Megbanua trial that there was this case back in the late 1990s where the suspected murderer was this teenager named Samuel Scheinbein, and he and his whole family, or he and his parents, ran off to Israel to hide. And back then, the U.S. government was not able to get Samuel Scheinbein to come back, to go and get him back from Israel so that he could face trial in the United States for the murder of Alfredo Tello. And so ultimately, Samuel Scheinbein, I think he killed himself while he was in prison in Israel, but his parents, they became residents there, and they're still living in Israel as far as I know. But in that situation, the family were, I guess, dual citizens, so they were also citizens of Israel. But in this situation, I'm pretty sure the Adelsons were not also citizens of Israel. So what country could they possibly flee to? I mean, especially in this day and age where it's a lot harder to disappear, and with COVID restrictions and stuff, I don't think they could easily just pack up their bags and move. Also with the father, Harvey, with Harvey Adelson having had brain cancer or brain tumor or something, I'm sure he's not in the condition to just like run off and be undercover in some other like far-flung country, especially where they probably wouldn't be able to speak the language or know people and stuff. Plus it's a lot harder to just run off and hide in another country when you have two young children that need to go to school and a whole family of people. So it's interesting because I did some more sleuthing on the internet, and there are some sites that tell you what are the countries that don't have extradition treaties with the United States, or where would it be easier to go, or considerations if you want to disappear and stuff. And so one of the main considerations, or one of the main pieces of advice I saw on a website, was that if you want to disappear, you should do it alone. Don't go with another person, because the more people you have with you, the less likely you're going to be able to hide and just disappear and blend in with the locals and stuff. So, but anyway, I mean, it's obvious that it's too late for Charlie to run off to another country. And I doubt that Grandma and Grandpa Adelson are in any condition to move away either. Let's see. Both Wendi, yeah, I noticed that. It was weird how Wendi just kept talking and bringing up more ideas and guessing as to, trying to point law enforcement in this direction, that direction of who might have been out to get her ex-husband. Yeah, Wendy's. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I noticed that she was the executive director for Impact Fund, IMPAC. And I heard that there was a petition going around to get her dismissed from that job. And it looks like she stopped being the executive director at least 3 or more years ago. And when I tried to look up information about that immigration rights organization, it looks like it's dissolved because the website doesn't exist anymore. Their Facebook page goes to like a broken link or whatever. It doesn't seem to be like in business anymore. Yeah, what about the vomiting evidence? Oh, well, her the ex-boyfriend, Jeffrey Lacoste, mentioned that anytime Wendi was stressed out or really worried or upset, then she would have stomach problems. So they would have to keep, was it Mylanta or Pepto-Bismol or something around? Like she always had that. And that she ended up like throwing up at the so-called celebration dinner. Of course, Wendi denies that it was a celebration dinner when she went out to dinner with her brother about a month after Dan was murdered. But Jeffrey Lacoste clearly recalled that Wendi mentioned that Charlie said it was a celebration dinner, after Dan Markel was murdered. And the whole family are pariahs now. Yeah, well, that's what they deserve if that's really the case. I still couldn't find anything else about whether Wendi is working anywhere now, but it sounds like she doesn't really need to work if she got all that money plus Social Security benefits for the kids. Yeah. Thank you. Police should have asked questions like, did Wendi make arrangements for children to be looked after while she was going to the stock bar? Check on. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you'd think they would have, and also, taught to the friend, like to even ask simple questions like, did you ask Wendi to get bourbon, or did you ask Wendi to get bullet bourbon? I don't know. I mean, because Jeffrey Lacoste said Wendy's lies all the time. So I don't even know if she was telling the truth about this or was she lying about this. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if law enforcement had the time to look into every single little thing and check up on every single little thing. But even when she was on the stand, it was obvious that she was already lying about miscellaneous things. Yeah, that's right. I agree. She was sobbing that whole time, then testifying later. She was complaining that she was questioned for 6 hours when she knew she had rights to have a lawyer represent her. Yeah, exactly. I mean, she could have said, okay, well, that's enough. If I'm not under arrest, I'm leaving. Yeah. Yeah. Hi. Thanks for being here. Wendi seems like a cheapskate. I don't know. What, if we're buying a bullet bourbon instead of trying to find some Pappy Van Winkle somewhere? Well, okay. I'm not sure. Yeah. Well, at least it wasn't like a box of wine from CVS Pharmacy, right? Yeah. Making sure her daughter had an alibi. Yes. Psychopaths are weird. Yep. Exactly. Donna having diarrhea. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I thought it was like Bulliet or whatever. Yeah, but there are also videos online telling you how to pronounce it, and it is pronounced bullet. Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, I didn't see anything where it seemed like he had any reason to lie, that he seemed very, very credible. You feel really bad for him thrown in the middle of this. Oh, and another thing, some shading that Wendi threw some more shade at him during her police interview. She made him out to seem like he was really poor and down and out and stuff, because she said she had only been to Jeffrey's basement apartment once because he seemed embarrassed about his living conditions, and he only had this, very just like a crummy little car, like a very old silver vehicle. So I don't know. I mean, it seemed like she was giving way too many details. Like, why did she even have to go into that, to try to make Jeffrey seem like he was really like dirt poor and lived in a crappy little basement apartment and had a crappy car and stuff. Yeah, very strange. Yeah, Argentina, I'm not sure what that's referring. Oh, in terms of countries. Yeah. Well, I mean, I was reading different things. There was some law firm from Irvine, California that came up, and they only listed like maybe no more than 5 countries without the extradition treaties. But then there was another website that listed more like a dozen countries. But ultimately, from what I've read, just because there's no extradition treaty with the United States doesn't mean that you can run off and then for sure never be brought back to face any crimes that you did. So yeah, it's really a crapshoot for anybody to run off to a different country hoping to escape having to answer to crimes. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, thanks for telling people to like this video. Yeah. Oh, Morocco. Yeah, I saw that in one of the websites that I looked at. Yeah, but never say never. You never know. Yeah. Wendi apparently not well. Yeah. Well, yeah. Who knows? I mean, we don't know everything that is out there. Yes, but certainly the way that she's behaved is very disrespectful of Dan's memory and of his parents and sister. Let's see. Wendi became guilty to me when she claimed she seen the yellow tape blockade on Trescott, and the officer said you wouldn't see it from the road. She was on. He saw her turn on Trescott and turn around. Yeah, I remember watching that testimony that she was specifically seen making a 3-point turn, leaving the scene. Did she get disbarred or suspended? Oh, as far as I know, yeah, she still has an active law license, but it doesn't sound like she really needs to have a job now anyway, with all the money that she's gotten. Plus, her family is very well off. Yeah. Let's hope she's haunted by it every day. But when she was on the stand, she also seemed very smug, like basically saying like she wasn't going to get arrested or she had no involvement. Yeah. Let's see. Why was the vomiting incident brought up at the trial? What does it prove or illustrate? I still don't get it. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it really shows anything either way, because maybe she didn't know about the plot to murder Dan Markel, and then after Charlie said something about it, then she got so stressed out, then she threw up. But then at the trial, at the Nua trial, she said it's just because she's so sensitive to alcohol, and she hadn't had anything to eat yet, and they were just at the bar and she had alcohol, and that's why she threw up. But yeah, I mean, that by itself doesn't really mean much to me, other than it sounds really disgusting. You know, I mean, who wants to think about being at a restaurant and you see someone throwing up all over the place? So awful. Yeah. So, I did. Okay. Before we end the live stream, I did want to also share more information that I found out about on the Facebook page, Justice for Dan. This is information about Dan Markel's mother's book, which is going to be coming out in September. So I hope you guys will support Ruth Markel's book. You can go ahead and pre-order it, which I did. So it sounds like it's going to be a very interesting read, and it's $30, hardcover book. You can pre-order. It says, Ruth Markel's tenacious fight for justice on behalf of the murder of her son, Dan Markel, and the struggle to be legally reunited with her grandchildren. Ruth Markel is the mother of the late Dan Markel, a noted law professor who was murdered in Tallahassee, Florida in 2014. In the unveiling, she describes her experiences since the day of Dan's death from several distinct perspectives. As a devastated mother, with a unique human perspective of becoming a homicide survivor and victim, as a woman whose attempts to achieve normalcy and live a healthy life are continually interrupted by painful reminders, a roller coaster of hearings, frequently changing trial dates, verdicts, and appeals. Okay, so anyway, this sounds like it will be a very interesting book, and we definitely like to support Ruth Markel and her book that's coming out. So just thought that I would mention that there. Yeah, sure. Yeah, but again, there are definitely people who are certainly more knowledgeable about the case than I am. So if anybody has more comments or more information or corrections, please feel free to let me know. Oh yeah, definitely. You can lose your law license, if charged for it. Although I'm not sure if they would take away her law license just for being charged with a crime. I think she would actually have to be convicted. Yeah, because, for example, I know I brought this up already in the previous live stream, but in the Robert Wand murder case, one of his college friends, Joseph Price, was an attorney in D.C. who was charged, but then later found not guilty of tampering with the evidence or conspiracy in regards to Robert Wand's murder. So that guy, Joseph Price, moved down to Florida, and he and his partner, Victor Zaborski, ended up buying a home in Miami Shores. And so Joe changed his name to Joseph Anderson and was actually practicing law and had a bar license in Florida for a while. And last I heard, he and Victor are now living together in Silver Spring, Maryland. So I get the feeling that if you're not actually convicted of something, then that makes it a lot less likely that your bar license would be taken away. Of course, it all depends on individual circumstances, right? And different state bars handle things differently. Yeah. With Wendi asking the boyfriend she just broke up with about when he leaves and the hitmen were driving the same car. Yeah, I mean, that really is fishy, the way she treated Jeffrey Lacasse. And, they were supposedly already broken up, but she really, really wanted to know what time or when he was planning on leaving for his trip to Tennessee. And his car was sort of similar in color to that misty greenish Prius that the hitman actually rented. Originally the time that Jeffrey Lacasse was supposed to be leaving town to go to Tennessee, he would have been driving right by Dan Markel's neighborhood, but he actually ended up leaving for his trip the night before without telling Wendi. So luckily he had good alibis. He had plenty of evidence that immediately eliminated him from being a murder suspect. Yeah, but poor guy, now he's been all over the news, and his testimony is still up there on YouTube and stuff. Yeah, poor guy. pasting, but I did a thread on Twitter about Wendy's work. Oh, okay, great. So is your Twitter handle Fancy Fiction also? Yeah, I try not to get on Twitter too much because I feel like I'm already spending enough time on YouTube, and then, you know, once in a while I'll look at Instagram and look on Facebook, but yeah, I don't get on Twitter too much. But definitely Fancy Fiction, if you can let us know what your Twitter handle is, that would be great. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, guys. Probably really should get going though, because I need to get some work done before I leave here. Yeah. So Charlie Adelson's in his early 40s, mother Donna in her 70s, considering time involved in prosecuting a case. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea what kind of deal he could possibly be offered or end up making. Yeah, but I'm sure he does not want to spend the rest of his life in prison, though. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's great that Dan's parents are, you know, they're out there, they are talking. His sister's out there, you know, they showed up to the trial of Catherine Magbanua, you know, just everybody working together to make sure that Dan Markel is not forgotten, and that, you know, that the people at fault will someday face their days of reckoning. Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Fancy Fiction. I appreciate all the work that you're doing, and it's really interesting watching all your videos also. Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely not. I mean, for some videos, it got changed to limited monetization. And then it turned out, okay, I barely made 20 cents, you know, from some video that took me hours to prepare for and to make. And you know, it's definitely a labor of love, or kind of like a hobby. Yeah, and I feel grateful to be able to find other people that care about the same types of things that I care about and these types of issues. Yeah. Yeah, not Robert Adelson. Yeah, he bounced. Oh, yeah. So we're looking forward to seeing more stuff at Fancy Fiction's YouTube video also. Yeah, totally. I mean, she even told him that if something happened to Dan Markel, then she would definitely be moving back to Miami. I mean, so Jeffrey thought that was weird too. Like, why would she even think that something would happen to Dan Markel? Because Dan Markel was, how old was he? He was like in his 30s. Let's see, he was born in late 1972. So yeah, so he was in his late 30s at that time. So why would Wendi be talking as if, oh, you know, potentially if something happened to Dan, if he were to die, you know, then she would just like quickly dash off to Miami. So he did, Jeffrey Lacoste did mention that he thought that was another weird comment that Wendi made, you know, because as far as he knew, you know, Dan Markel had no health problems. You know, there was no reason why he would be dying anytime soon. Yeah. Oh, most definitely use Jeff. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Praise for Fancy Fiction. Yeah. Wendi still has. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. From that testimony. Yeah. Oh, yeah. She sent him out for medicine for her tummy. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I remember reading about that, she was really upset that night, that later turns out was supposed to be the first, or the first attempt on Dan Markel's life was supposed to be on June 4th. Yeah. I feel bad for the boys. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Great. The boys are 11 and 12. Yeah. 6 years. Okay. Oh, that there might have been 3 attempts. I'm not really sure. Yeah. Oh, Dan Markel's age. He was 41. Let's see. I can't do math right now. Okay. So born in 1972, but then he died in 2014. So whatever that math is. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, I really do have to get going, but I really appreciate everybody being here, caring about the case. And we'll see if maybe Mentor Lawyer will be back on the show later on this summer. And I do know that Stephen Epstein, who is an attorney I know here in Raleigh, North Carolina, is working on a book about the case. So he's already told me he'd be happy to come back later on as his book publishing date gets closer, you know, to talk about the case and hopefully tell us more about his book and everything. Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Thank you guys all for being here, and go out and celebrate Father's Day if you're a father or you are in a household where somebody should be celebrating Father's Day today. yeah, really appreciate you guys being here and caring also about Dan Markel and this whole saga. So I have a couple of big court hearings coming up in the next 2 weeks, so I don't think I'm going to be live streaming until another 2 weeks. But if I do have time, I might put out just like a very, very quick video, like a clip from a previous live stream or something, just to keep the channel alive. Yeah, have a good day then. Yeah. Oh, okay. Would they want to convert to? Yeah, I have no idea, but unfortunately, the kids have been influenced by the Adelson family for the last 8 years. And who knows when or if they're going to be able to spend any time with their grandparents or their paternal aunt. So it's just really sad that the Adelson family is the one that is influencing them these days. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great to hear that people from other countries are also interested in this case. So have a good day. Happy Father's Day if you are a father. And I'll see you at the next live stream, probably in at least two plus more weeks. Thank you.